Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another fun-filled show of the Four Guys Roundtable Show, starring me, Joe, aka Theo, the man who is turning to the dark side, Darth Pat, the man with the alter ego, AJ Nitro, and then just Jeremy. I apologize. I'm still trying to figure out something for you because all three of us have something, and you're just Jeremy. I guess Coach Jeremy. We can go that route. Whatever. It is what it is. We'll figure something out. Wait. Okay. We'll go with that for now. Let's go with that now. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? What are you guys up to? Oh, and I brought my adult sippy cup again. Like I said, it's going to be exclusive to every single show.
He has it again. Reoccurring
exclusive
theme, adult sippy cups.
Damn, Skippy.
So,
What's going on, everyone?
Doing good. I want to share with you guys. So I had the privilege. I do a charity golf tournament every year. It's a shotgun start, so everybody starts at a different hole, and then it's a 4-man scramble. Which, funny enough, we had an interesting event yesterday. So it's always me, my dad, and my one cousin, and then we always find a fourth person. Which last year it was my buddy Steve from high school, and this year it was going to be him again. And we thought he wasn't going to show up because I texted him at half hour till. We were supposed to start at 2. 1:30, I texted him. I said, "Hey, you on your way?" He goes, "Oh, shit, I forgot." Good thing he only lived 10 minutes away. He got there, but it was pretty funny. But I don't know if you guys ever participate in like a charity golf event thing, anything like that?
No.
No. They are very interesting because with 4-man scrambles, everybody plays the same ball. Whoever hits the best shot, you go up to that one, and everybody hits from there, and you play the next best shot. There's always a team, without a shadow of a doubt, there's always a team that's coming in 15 under, 18 under, so they birdie almost every hole. Well, wouldn't you know it? Team yesterday, winning team comes in 18 under. I was like, that's not – I get it. There's going to be some really good golf players in every team, but not every player is going to be a good golf player. Like, come on. There's got to be some shitty guys in that team, too. Like, come on. So it's always funny. Like, we never go out to win. We just go out there to play and have fun and raise money for a good charity. We play in the same one every year. It's to help raise money for colon cancer, I believe it is. The guy who does it, his dad passed away from that. So it's for fun, and that's why we go. We go have fun. We have a lot of laughs and stuff like that. But yeah, it's always somebody's always out there. We got to win. We got to be the winner. So let's go out and make sure we get every hole and that. But the funnest part of this whole thing is we're about 6 holes from being done. We're on the last hole of the back 9 because we started on hole 6. We had to go play the front 5 holes. And all of a sudden we hear this hooting and hollering. We're like, oh, my God, they must have hit it. We're seeing this guy. He's pretty far away from the hole. We're like, holy shit, he chipped it in. That's pretty awesome. So we expected him to hoot and holler. But he's going on for like a minute and a half hooting and hollering. We're like, God, like this is getting a little annoying now. Like, come on, buddy. Like, great. You hit a great shot. Okay, good. Fantastic. He didn't put it in the hole. He was like a foot away. So he's hooting and hollering.
He was excited about a foot away.
Yeah, he was excited. He had a footer, It's like
the
dude.
Engine that almost did it. Trucking almost got it to the hole. Oh, yeah. He was excited about that. Great.
Yeah, it was absolutely hilarious. Like, we're like, oh, my God, he didn't make it. So now we're up hitting our tee shots on this 18th hole, which is over this freaking water. It's like 190, but it feels like 300 because you're shooting directly over the body of water. And we're hooting and hollering every time we hit a shot. I hit mine into the water. We're like, woo!
What golf course did you guys do that charity?
We were at Iron Lakes Golf Course over in what is that? Orfield? No, not Orfield. Schnecksville, I think it's considered over there. Okay. Near the old Parkland High School, which is now the Parkland Middle School. So that's where we were. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Just another hick town in Pennsylvania.
Just another hick town. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun. We had a good time. Had a couple beers, of course, and they had some good food. They always give us good food. I didn't win anything at the Chinese auction, which was kind of disappointing. I had bought $20 worth of tickets. I'm like, I should win something, right? One person won like 4 things. I'm like, this is rigged. They always win the same shit. Like, come on, just let me win one thing.
I've always
So that
like
was
wanted.
That was my weekend with the.
I've
the
always
golf
wanted to try one of those, but like I don't know enough. Like Jay's the only person around here that golfs, and he hasn't golfed in a long time. He's really good, but I've never really gotten the chance to do one of those. It would have probably been fun, but I probably would have gone like you did, and just it is what it is. So
Yeah.
I would have been toasty by the end of that golf tournament.
yeah.
Guaranteed.
One time before I moved back here, me and Joe went because I got free golf. Somebody came into Champs and gave me free golf.
Oh, that was fun.
Me and Joe didn't even make it through the front nine. Joe, every shot Joe hit was bouncing on the cart path, and we.
It was ridiculous. Everything I did, I was trying a different like approach. Everything I've seen on TV to try to like correct everything I was doing wrong was not fucking working. And these guys that were with us, that he put us with, were just kind of like, here we go again. This bullshit. But you're like, can we just play ahead? I'm like, go. Get the fuck out of here. Just go play ahead.
It was free. The only reason we even went was because it was free. I would not have. The course was hilly. It was hilly as hell. And it was not the course I would have went to, but it was free. I don't remember. I have no idea.
It was oh crap! No, I'm gonna forget. You got to go through Southside Easton and go up to the hill.
Morgan Hill.
Yeah. So I think it's a golf course up there, up on that.
Morgan Hill.
Way.
That's a tough ass course. That's one of the tougher courses in this area.
Yes, it is. That's the one we played on.
We didn't even make it to 9. Joe at one point's like, I'm done. So we made it to 7 or 8, and he's like, I wasn't playing great either by no stretch. Like it was a struggle, and he's just like, I'm done, Matt.
Yeah, I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm like, fuck
this
shit.
It's funny you mentioned Jay, and I've met Jay, your friend Jay, and he would not strike me as somebody who would be good at golf. Like I'm like that's surprising. And there's no hey Jay, if you're listening to this at any point in time, it's no offense to you. You just don't strike me as a golf type. So I apologize.
He's like
John Daly.
I went with him a couple times, and one time he shot under par on a 9 even.
Wow.
And he was like, I'm due for a chip, and he chipped in. Like
he was stroking it.
His middle game is like, I can hit the ball off the tee and I can putt. My middle game is where I stink. Like I'm never aimed the right way, so it goes left of the green. The only way it goes on the green is if it bounces up onto the green for me. Jay's middle game, and like when I played with Adam and Brett, Adam never used the driver. He used his irons all day, even off the tee. And he played.
That's what I do now.
Considering he didn't use a drive, but Adam's middle game was really good too. And my cousin's a really good golfer too. He wasn't a really good golfer when I was younger, but that's all he does now is golf. So, but Jay's the best golfer. He played golf all 4 years in high school, and he's the best golfer of all the people I know. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
He's like I am when I play basketball. If he's not playing good, he's not fun to be around. So if I go golfing with him, he's playing like crap. He's like, oh, this course sucks. Like he doesn't.
Yeah, it's the course.
So
he becomes a moody bitch. Great.
He gets like me.
I understand.
He gets like me. Like he's so competitive and he wants to be perfect and do everything right. That if he's not, he starts getting angry and mentally. That's how I am on the court. That's how
he turns into a Snickers commercial. I see.
Yes. Which
Jay, are you feeling okay? Why? Here, have a Snickers.
Poor Jay, he's gonna listen to this and be like, they're picking on me.
Unofficial sponsor of our podcast today, Snickers.
I really hope they don't.
Jay, we like you. Don't worry.
What'd you say, Darth Pat?
I said I really hope that Snickers doesn't come after us now for making it sound like we're actually sponsoring us. I mean, Snickers, if you want to sponsor us, we will gladly welcome that, and I will shill for Snickers like a motherfucker. But we're not actually happening yet. So,
which is my favorite candy bar, so I'm good with that too.
Pat got to see me have one of my Snickers meltdowns after basketball one time. I kicked a Gatorade bottle and yelled at him. So
that Gatorade bottle didn't know what happened to it.
I punted that thing like across the court.
such anger
At that
issues.
point, I think my attitude was just, I'm not even going to go say anything to him.
Well, because 10 minutes later, after I calmed down, I probably came over and apologized and said, I'm sorry I was being a dick. So, because I know that's how I am. I don't do that anymore, at least, but I knew that that's how I was, so.
Yeah, it happens. We all have
He
issues.
says he doesn't do that anymore, but does he really? Well, we've brought on a surprise guest. No.
I know I don't. So.
No, I'll vouch for you on that, AJ. You definitely are much more mellow. You're just there to have fun. Yeah, you still want to try and win, but you're more now about how well you play in a game, not the outcome of the game. So you're definitely a lot more fun to play with because I don't have to worry about getting hacked to hell, if I'm driving for the last point of the game.
I mean, I think every game is the NBA Finals. That's how I was for a long time. So
hey, I got two brothers, and one of my brothers was like that. He yelled, just, come on, you gotta play defense. Let's go, you gotta play defense.
I played with him, so I know how he is.
It's like, dude, I'm just playing for fun. I'm like, listen, I'm fucking tired right now. I'm out of breath. I'm gonna run and play some defense, but not the whole thing. I can't do it all. I'm dying.
Right? Was he like the guy from Anger Management? You gotta dunk that shit.
Yeah. I still remember when we went to see that movie. You guys like, look, it's Matt. Look, there you're in the movie, Matt. I'm like, yes, I am. Apparently, they typecast me in a role in Anger Management. Imagine that.
Yes, AJ, they did.
I remember Chris with you, Jeremy, getting mad at you because you wouldn't be right up in my face, and you're like, he's gonna shoot the ball whether I guard him or not, so I'm not gonna waste my time.
No, and you were like 3 feet behind the freaking 3-point line. Like, if you're gonna make him, you're gonna make him. Like, for the love of Pete. Like, I don't even tell kids I coach to guard anybody out that far. If they're making it, they're gonna make it. Like, that's just the way that is.
Just stay in front of him.
If he makes that 40-foot shot, he deserves to make it.
Exactly.
Pretty much. All right, guys. So we're talking about wrestling events that we all went to together. Let me get my southern accent up to par here. Because all four of us have been to wrestling events with each other at one point in time. Now, yeah, we're going to talk about wrestling events we all went to. We definitely went to a multitude of them, from WWE to TNA, and pretty much I think that's about it. Yeah.
Together. We've been to only those together. I've been to NXT and AEW too, so.
Yeah.
WCW?
I was going to say, did anybody here ever go to a WCW or ECW show?
I went to ECW.
I've been to over 30 ECW shows.
Damn.
I was just talking about, in general, us four going to shows together.
Well, no, I was just curious about the history that went beyond the four of us,
No, I went to, when my senior year in high school, I started going to one of the friends I was friends with in high school. His cousin was a big ECW guy, so we used to go on the weekends down to Philly to watch their shows. Or anytime we got a chance. When I graduated high school, any chance I got, I was, once I got my license and a car to drive, I was flying down to Philadelphia to watch the shows, or even New York or whatnot, because it was just, I don't know, at that time, WWE was okay. WCW was, I was watching that a little bit more. And then it's just everything ECW was doing was just something I just gravitated towards it because of the product and what they were doing, and a lot of other things too. But I went to more ECW shows than I have WWE shows.
It was and WD-40 shows too. Yes.
Yeah. I stumble over my words at times. People, you will get used to this.
I saw the Dudleys the last night they were in ECW. I was at that show, and the fans were chanting, "You sold out" to them, and I was still cheering for them because I didn't care that they were leaving.
That was the show when Raven came back, then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was they fought in the snack bar, right by where we were sitting. They were fighting. It wasn't like a snack bar at the WWE shows where it's it was a little cart snack bar type thing, and they were fighting, like throwing each other off of that. And they did the flaming tables that night, and it was cool to see that in person.
Nice.
That was really cool to see in person. So,
flaming tables are always cool.
yes.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, hey, spoiler alert: we saw flaming something at one of the shows we went to, but it wasn't a table. Had some kind of joke about. No, let's just. I screwed that one
why
up.
don't
Let's
you
just
tell the story, Pat? You
Yes.
brought it up, so why don't you go ahead and talk about that Raw?
In just a
Finish
moment.
it.
In just a moment, because I've got a public service announcement for all
Oh,
our
here we
fans
go.
watching and listening.
Already coming.
Don't forget, you need to tune in to the end of our show. Not tune in to the end of our show, because we will release the next Mount Rushmore based on today's topic, which is going to be wrestling. But you got to stay tuned in to find out what it's going to be in regards to wrestling. Take it away, Darth Pat.
Oh, so yeah, what I was alluding to there, not the best way to do it. I'm trying to find the exact date here, but it's escaping me.
So me, Pat, and Jeremy all went to this Raw together.
Along with some other people as well, but they're not important.
No, just me and Pat went to that one, I think.
Yes, this one I was not partaking in.
Yeah.
So I was not important.
Here was actually, we just passed the 13th year anniversary for it. Like, everybody remembers the 13th anniversary of something. Anyway, June 11th, 2007, and it was a show up in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which not exactly a prominent wrestling town you would think of. I mean, it's not even one of the biggest cities, but just so happens that's where Raw was stopping to that night. And it ended up being a very big night, because not only was it the most, or at the time, the most recent edition of the WWE draft, which was pretty cool, but they were also holding Mr. McMahon Appreciation Night. Now, if you remember the terrible ass storyline they were doing that summer, this was after Vince McMahon had his head shaved at WrestleMania, and he was then for whatever reason, he got into this, I'm sorry, not for whatever reason, he then got into a continued storyline with Bobby Lashley, who was the ECW champion, and who was the guy who, of course, had been the representative that, beat Umaga at the WrestleMania match so that Vince got his head shaved.
Yes.
And they did this whole stupid ass thing where, like, Vince won the ECW title from him, then he lost it back to Lashley. And so the whole thing was that Vince was like, they were building it like Vince wasn't all there anymore. Like, his loss to Bobby Lashley had caused, like, a severe brain injury in a way, and that he was practically catatonic, and that he had, like, lost the will to live and all this other shit. So, in addition to having all the matches throughout the night, and because, of course, it was still when the first brand split was well underway, everybody from every brand is there. And so there was inter-promotional matches, and, like, it was like, so it was a Raw guy versus a SmackDown guy, and the SmackDown guy won, and SmackDown got the draft pick, which was random and everything. So that was kind of neat. And they had the Mr. McMahon Appreciation Night videos throughout the night, where they had people, like, taping, testimonials. And one of the interesting things was they had Bret Hart do that, one of them. This was only a year after he had been inducted into the Hall of Fame, but he'd still not set foot back on Raw. Problem was, as I recall, us in the arena, when they showed the Bret Hart video, couldn't hear it. So they didn't know what the hell he was saying.
And I remember watching this specifically for two reasons. One, I was still really into wrestling at this point in time. And two, I wanted to see where your guys' seats were, see if I could see your signs and shit that you guys took that day.
Because that I'm pretty sure we did a CWA thing that day, earlier in the day, because that's why we did. So that's why I feel like I remember doing a CWA event earlier in the day that day. So
yeah, it was so. But like as far as our seats, we were like we were on the floor. We were like 5 or 6 rows behind, the Raw announcers, which was kind of cool. I don't know if we ever really got on TV, but we were pretty close. We had pretty good seats. But so at the end of the night, Vince comes out to be like, finally, like, accept, like, the warm appreciation of the crowd. And of course he's getting booed out of his, just mercilessly and everything. So he just comes to the ring and he's got this like distant look on his face. He picks up the microphone, just kind of stares at the audience, looking kind of like, and then drops the mic and then just slowly walks to the back. And then you see him walking past all the superstars who hadn't been on the show, who were all just kind of looking at him weird, except for Paul London, who's smiling at him like a Cheshire cat, which that got Paul London in a lot of shit. And then, then they see him walking outside and you see him getting into his limo. And then, you see him go into the limo and you see the door start to close. And then it kind of sort of reopens again for a little bit for just 1 second, which I'm convinced this day was like probably a tape loop. And then you see the door shut. And as soon as the door shuts,
and I
scene exploded.
And watching it on TV was absolutely nuts because it was like they made that explosion and the sound effect that they probably pushed into the tape too was just ridiculous. But it was really cool to watch.
Overdone.
Yeah, it was a little overdone.
It was so overdone.
And I got to tell you though, the reaction inside the arena, I think everybody just started looking at each other like,
what the
fuck was that? Like, it didn't get cheered. It didn't get booed. There wasn't really so much like of an audible like gasp, like, oh my God. It was more just like, what?
Why the hell did that happen?
Like, what did they just do this for?
So it was, and then the thing that like, kind of compounded it to being so weird was if you've ever really been to like a live or even a taped WWE show that's not a pay-per-view, mind you, there's usually like a dark match after the bell or some kind of in-ring segment. There wasn't one advertised, so that wasn't really a big deal. But like, so there was nothing like that. There was nothing where like the ring announcer, got on the night in the arena to say good night, thanks for coming, we'll be back here at such and such a date. They probably didn't have a future date set for Wilkes-Barre anyway, but usually they'll say, when they're in the bigger cities, oh yeah, we'll be back in Philadelphia in September, So it was nothing like that. So it was just this very, very just like kind of creepy, eerie, like what the hell just happened feeling. And then it was just, we're all just kind of walking out. And now I don't remember seeing it. I don't know if AJ or any of the other guys we did with either, but supposedly they did have a limousine on fire somewhere in the parking lot of that arena. Now,
I don't remember seeing it.
It's kind of a big parking lot at that arena, like in terms of like it's kind of expansive. So you're not necessarily going to walk out to the area of the parking lot where like the limo would have been or whatever. But supposedly there was one there, and I think do you remember hearing fire trucks or like hearing fire trucks coming to the scene? I can't remember. It's been 13 years, but
I mean, it's very possible that wasn't Dawson there that night? He was probably saying something inappropriate as we were leaving at some point.
Well, I mean,
yeah, probably.
Our friend Mike Dawson, who just thrives on saying appropriate things at the inappropriate time. So,
yes.
5 times worse than me. Like I'm bad, but he takes it to another level.
So, yeah, it was weird, but again, there was the flaming limo, quite literally, and that show ended up being all kinds of significant for so many other reasons. I mean, it was about 2 weeks before, unfortunately, the Benoit murder-suicide. So Benoit wrestled on that show, and the funny thing is that he lost to a guy from ECW, and I even remember turning to a guy who was sitting next to us and saying, watch Benoit get drafted to ECW here, and that's exactly what had happened, because they were like, I had read, I think on one of the internet sites, that they were wanting to make Benoit like kind of like the veteran leader for ECW, and like give him a run with the title so that he could work with other guys to, like elevate them and shit, which probably would have worked at the time. Benoit was still as technically sound as he ever was in the ring at that point. But obviously we know that there was shit going on behind the scenes, of course.
Now he doesn't exist. Now he doesn't exist in WWE lore.
Exactly.
It was a race in history.
So there was just a lot of really interesting stuff on that show. I mean, again, like, the fact that you had the draft going on was cool. The fact that you got to see pretty much everybody who was on the roster at the time was cool. That you got to see Vince live was cool, because even by that point, Vince wasn't appearing live on every show. And
no,
like he really, because of the Mr. McMahon character, he really is an attraction in that sense. So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was a very cool show, top to bottom, with just one of the bizarrest damned endings in the world. And of course, they called off the whole storyline after the Benoit stuff. I don't mean to minimize it by saying stuff, but so we don't really know exactly where it was going. I think the intention that it was going to be like that he like faked his death to try to like root out which of his family members were going to stay loyal to him or something like that, which sounds fine on the surface, but again, it's still okay. So you find out that like, oh, Stephanie was willing to just kick dirt on your grave, but Shane was going to stay to loyalty. What was really the end game there? Who the hell knows?
It was almost gonna be like what he did when he unveiled himself as like the prime leader of, what was it, the
ministry,
the dark ministry, or many years before that. Kind of just a different angle, but kind of same concept.
Well, right. The twist was going to be, of course, that he wasn't really dead.
Yeah.
But again, it was going to be the end game of like, okay, so he felt like he had to fake his death to root out who was loyal to him. But again, to what specific end there? Who knows? I mean, and then what they ended up doing really, if you remember, a few months later, then they basically pivoted to the illegitimate son storyline.
Yeah, that was hokey and horrible.
Which ended up being Hornswoggle, even though, of course, which they then eventually went back on that too. But the popular rumor had been, of course, that it was supposed to be Kennedy, but then Kennedy got the wellness policy violation,
and injured like 19,000 times in his wrestling career. Unfortunate waste of possible talent.
Really good gimmick, but couldn't stay healthy.
Good gimmick, but all right. Injury prone and prone to injure others, not a good combination.
Yeah. Nope. So let's move on to another story. Thank you, Pat. That was an awesome story to share. And I want to share a story of my own, unless somebody else wants to jump in with their story.
No, go ahead.
No, okay, good. All right, good, because I was going to let you anyway. So there.
He was setting us up.
So we're going to go back to Scranton Wilkes-Barre, and I want to share my very first WWE wrestling event, actually my first wrestling event ever, back up in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. It was me, AJ, Darth Pat, and who else went? Was it just the three of us? Okay, so it was the three of us. Oh yes, I remember we were driving up in my car and we had the air conditioning on, and I think Darth Pat didn't want the air conditioning on too long because it made him feel sick. So we had to roll down the windows at some point in time. It was hot as hell, I remember, because I think it was like July or August. I think that
it was definitely summer.
I think that's when we were driving back. The whole thing with the air conditioning. Yeah, it was like making me feel nauseous for some reason.
Yes, but so the drive to and fro was interesting enough. But going to my very first wrestling event and having it be a Raw and in a smaller arena like that, because Wilkes-Barre's arena wasn't huge. It was decent, but it wasn't
mid-level type stuff.
And once again, we were close. We were like 5 rows back or 6 rows back or something. Yeah, right about that. In the corner, the one corner.
We were on the floor. We weren't like directly behind the announcers. We were like if this is like the ring, like the square, we were kind of like off to like almost like directly from like one of the posts.
The back
caddy corner.
If you're facing where we were facing towards the ramp, and we were back off to the left side. No, right side, back to the right. Yeah. And what made this so memorable was a couple different things. One, Kane was there. Not that I loved Kane by any means.
His pyro.
But his pyro was badass. Like, he has some badass pyro. And when he does the whole arms thing and the pyro goes off, if you don't got earplugs, that shit startles the crap out of you. Like, I was like, and they're like, be ready for it. It's going to be loud. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's going to be loud, huh? And that shit goes off. It's like, boom. And because it's 4 big ass cannons going off at the same time, and it scared the shit out of me. I was like, okay, yeah, it's loud.
Definitely the loudest pyro I've ever heard. That includes like shit at Disney World. So
yeah, it is loud. It's very loud. Kane's pyro is probably the one I always remember, and I always warn people about ahead of time.
Yeah, it was some loud stuff. But the funniest thing is that I remember from this whole event was the signs that we had and who they were for. because
Oh, boy.
we like to cheer the good guys, but we really like to cheer the bad guys too, because it's a lot of fun, because you get people to look at you and they're like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, that guy's a bad guy, but it's fun in that sense.
Yes, it is.
And
It's fun to
we
play with
had-
little kids.
Darth
And
Pat
then-
had the sweetest sign. What's that?
I was saying it's fun to play with little kids in the sense of like messing with their minds, because I think when you get to our age, and like this show was 2005, so we're all 15 years younger, so we're all in our 20s still. But like, you that's at that age where you're like, oh, I want to be a smartass and piss off a lot of 9-year-olds.
And that's I've always been like that. So
Yeah, I think you got a problem.
Sport, man. Gotta mess with the kids.
AJ got a problem. No, just kidding. But no, Darth Pat had two of the sweetest signs. I had like the generic like signs because I had my oldest daughter, who we're talking 15 years ago, so she was like 7 or 8 at the time. I'm like, watch the show. Daddy's gonna have a sign just for you. So I did the cheesy like dad signs and like, oh, look at I'm here. Those terrible signs that everybody does. But Darth Pat had the sweetest signs, and Darth Pat made one sign for Chris Masters, who is one of probably the worst wrestlers I've ever seen wrestle. The Master Lock Challenge was a terrible thing. It was way overdone for way too long. And Darth Pat, what did your sign say? Tell us all what your sign said.
Well, the sign for Chris Masters said, Masters fears mic skills.
It's true.
Awesome.
At the time, my bigger problem with him wasn't that they were giving him a push, wasn't that he was, really just, newest version of big muscle guy, but that he sounded just so monotone, so just vanilla.
He was very blah. He was very blah.
Yeah, that is blah. That's really the best thing I can say to him. So it was me just kind of saying, dude, come on. And watching a clip from 2004, it was the night where Evolution turned on Randy Orton. I kind of rediscovered where my inspiration for that sign came from, because on that night where Evolution dropped Orton, it was like the night after SummerSlam when he had won the title, somebody had a sign that was very much, easy to see. It was very much on camera that said, Batista fears charisma.
I do remember that sign. That shit was funny.
Totally get somebody making a sign of, and in like late 2004, I could totally get that. Now fast forward 16 years later, and you go, wow, you were pretty wrong on that one. But
yeah.
But yeah,
So,
Masters Mike skills. And when he was in the ring doing his spiel that night, I'm almost positive he saw the sign. Because he was when he was on the mic, and I thought for sure I saw him kind of do like a real quick double take. And to his credit, he didn't like linger on it. He didn't make it obvious. But I'm like 95% sure he saw the sign.
I think I had the other cool sign that night. I believe mine was the other cool one.
Oh, maybe it was yours. I thought Pat had one on back and front, but so our other character, the other wrestling character we really, really enjoyed and that we were cheering for, because he was like the obvious bad guy to cheer for at that time, was Muhammad Hassan. And one of us had a Hassan for President sign.
Me.
And that was AJ. I apologize.
We both had it then.
Oh, you both had it. Okay. I knew one of you had it. I thought it was
totally on the
both.
other side.
Sign
We
for
both had that sign
president.
because all those kids kept looking at us like, what's wrong with these guys?
So those signs made the night so much fun. I mean, besides being at the show, being my first show, being there with you guys who have, were big, are still big wrestling fans, watch wrestling, more than I do. Well, not so much Darth Pat, but definitely AJ. Made it just the experience that much more fun. And, we got to see, I forget who else was on that card. It wasn't the greatest card, but it was a pretty decent card. Getting to see some of the wrestlers. I think, was Cena on that card? I can't remember. Was he still on SmackDown at the time?
He was still on SmackDown.
He was still on SmackDown. So we didn't get to see Cena, but we had Kane. I forget who Kane fought. We had Chris Masters. We had Muhammad Hassan, which unfortunately his gimmick got cut real short and he got off the show real quick right after the whole 9/11
talent there.
Well, the biggest problem with the Hassan gimmick was it was only about, I want to say, 6 months old at that point. But even already by that point, they had really stripped it a lot of like the nuance from the character, with him saying, "Hey, I'm an Arab American and I've faced unjust discrimination ever since 9/11." They had already really stripped that away to him basically being like the 2000s version of the Iron Sheik. So they had just like they had taken away like all like the nuance and the gray area, and they just basically made him like the typical mustache twirling villain already. So they kind of already ruined the character at that point. But one other thing, because you're talking about who else was on the card, we got to see a dark match that night. Where it was Matt Capitelli, who was one of the recent Tough Enough winners, along with John Hennigan, now known as John Morrison, and of course, unfortunately, Matt Capitelli passed away within the last couple of years from a brain tumor. But he was wrestling that night. A guy who I think, AJ, it was you. You turned to me and said, "Hey, isn't that CM Punk?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think it is." And it was. So it was Matt Capitelli wrestled a dark match against CM Punk that night, because that was still several months before Punk ever showed up on TV and everything. So just kind of cool seeing Punk before his career took off, at least in WWE. Of course, I don't remember a damn thing about the match though, to see like if there was anything that happened. But just an interesting tidbit. I thought we got to see CM Punk in a dark match.
Yeah, no. So yeah, it was a good time, and I'll cherish that memory forever. So
I've been to shows with everybody. I think Jeremy's the one of the. I've been to 4 shows with Jeremy. 2 of the ones I've been to with Jeremy were really good. The 2013 Money in the Bank was great.
Yeah,
and the NXT Takeover in Philly was fabulous.
Yes.
So 2 of the 4 shows I've been to with Jeremy were awesome. So, with you, Pat, you were at the Money in the Bank too. I think that was probably the best show I've been to with you. And me and Joe have been to 2 WrestleManias and 1 or 2 other shows. And I think, was it WrestleMania 29 or 30, Joe? That was the best show I think I've been to with you.
Yeah, we went to a Raw in Philly that night. I got that stupid ass migraine like 3
The Heartthrobs. That was the Heartthrob night.
Yep. The Heartthrobs came out. Yoda was standing and cheering for him. We were up there like, yeah, Heartthrobs. And these 2 girls behind us were like, what the fuck is wrong with these 2 guys? They're like looking at us like, yeah, you rock.
Adam and his sister were with us, and I think even Adam and his sister were like...
See, I can't remember who the Heartthrobs were. I remember the tag team, but I can't remember the 2 individuals.
They never really made it. They were like, they wrestled in a dark match that night, so...
I mean, I would have been like Adam and his sister, looking at them like they were weird too. Not because there's anything wrong with cheering those guys. I mean, cheer for who you want. But they had like barely been on TV at all, I think, in that point. Their gimmick was really still kind of
yeah, who cares?
It was fabulous.
It was awesome.
It was Joey the stylist.
It was because they came out to this like techno music, and they were doing the all the time and shit. So
they were awesome.
Yeah, we
for those who can't see it and are listening to it, our Darth Pat just did some gyrations.
Never do that again, please.
If you have lost your eyesight as a result of that, I do apologize. We should have had a disclaimer before I did that, but you can't sue us because we're just not responsible. So
I'm gonna when me and Joe went to WrestleMania, I'm gonna let Joe tell the WrestleMania story, because I can tell 1 or 2 other stories. So I'm gonna let Joe tell the WrestleMania story, because that was fun. We will talk about the WrestleMania.
That was my first WrestleMania.
Together eventually. That show was fun, but Joe's going to tell you what happened kind of towards the end of that show that kind of ruined it for both of us.
That was WrestleMania 30, right? That was the first one. 30 was the first one in New York, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we went to 2 WrestleManias. We went to that Raw, and weren't all of us together when we went to a Survivor Series in Philly too?
No, me, you, and Pat. Me, you, and Pat went to. So I went to 4 things with you then, Joe.
Yeah. So yeah, first WrestleMania. My guy CM Punk was wrestling on that show. There was other, I like Chris Jericho too. Oh, sad match that had to end out to be. But anyway, it was cool. First WrestleMania.
We were really hoping that Dolph Ziggler, me and Joe wanted to see Dolph Ziggler cash in that night. Unfortunately, it happened next night.
Yeah, we were so waiting for it. So it was cool because we got there early, standing in line, talking to some people, and we waited like an hour and 20 minutes to get into the pro shop. But we met this cool ass couple from like fucking Australia, and we were just BSing with them for like the whole time. So it was cool, all that stuff. And of course,
I even liked them. So that's if I like them.
Yeah, that's a rarity in itself, right there.
AJ does not warm up to strangers, are you?
Especially wrestling fans. It's hard.
Stranger danger.
No, definitely not.
They were cool though. They were cool. Joe's right. That couple was cool.
Yeah.
We talked to them for a while.
Yeah, they were cool. So we go to the pro shop, we go to our seats and all that stuff. Our seats weren't bad. We weren't too high up, and weren't too low either. But one thing about it is that I like to, and we'll get into this a little later, I like to eat when I go out to events. So we'll talk about the other WrestleMania that all 4 of us were together, and we'll talk about that food festival I went through that whole night. But anyway, we had good seats. I got a CM Punk shirt. We were sitting up there. It was a little cool, but we were enjoying the show for the most part. But these 2 fucking douchebag bungholios.
It was like
that
4.
Were sitting
there was like 4 guys sitting right behind them.
So
douchebag bungholios.
Yeah, I'm going some old school with
They were foreign, I think, too. Some of them were. I don't know if they all were from England, but they were definitely some foreign.
Quick disclaimer. All our foreign listeners, we know you are all good people except for those people that were sitting behind AJ and Joe that night.
So there was 4 of them, but there was 2 of them that were being really obnoxious. And then there was a father and his daughter, and the girl was probably like 12, 13 years old. And during the course of the whole night, it was like getting worse. They were drinking more, cursing more. They were being obnoxious. I mean, you want to talk about the F-bomb. It was like, fuck, boom, fuck. Another word, fuck, another word, fuck. And it was like, Jesus Christ. Like, I felt bad for this girl who was sitting here trying to watch a wrestling match with her father. And, like, these guys are just throwing it at him, throwing the bombs left and right. So during the course of the night, I think it was like 2 matches left. We go get food, come back. I'm trying to eat my fucking sausage with onions and green peppers on, and I'm ready to chow down on this shit with my big-ass fucking beer. And these assholes behind us got similar food. I put on my fucking CM Punk shirt, rocking it at fucking WrestleMania, and I feel something hitting my back. And they're like, man. Oh no, oh my God, I think we just dropped something on that dude's shirt, blah, blah, blah. So I reach back, and these assholes are so fucking drunk. They can't even fucking sit straight in their goddamn seats, and they drop fucking onions and green peppers in the back of my CM Punk shirt. Like, I'm just like, please, one more thing. One more thing's happening. I'm getting tossed out of this.
I'm pretty sure
I can't take it anymore.
One of them at one point dropped their phone too, and it was underneath like either my seat or Joe's or the people next to us.
I wasn't fucking getting it.
And they were drunk. Imagine a drunk person trying to get their phone in that stadium. Like it's hard to get the phone when you're sober. So they just the last 3 matches were Punk, Undertaker, Triple H, Brock, and Rock Cena. Those were the 3 matches. I even wanted to see. I was excited about all 3 of those matches. Like I was actually rooting. I didn't always root for Punk. I was 100% rooting for Punk because I would never root for the Undertaker. So I was those guys. Just everything they said for the last hour and a half was obnoxious, and they didn't like. I think me and Joe we were rooting for Brock, we were rooting for Punk, and they were belittling both of them. The whole match. I don't even remember who they were rooting for in the Rock Cena match. I was like either or. I was just happy I got to see 2 of my favorite wrestlers fighting at WrestleMania. But they did not shut up. It was constant, and they ruined the best part of that. The best 3 matches, like the Punk Undertaker match and the Rock Cena match, were pretty good matches. Like whether you like Rock, that match was pretty good, and the Punk Undertaker match was a really good match. So those douchebags kind of ruined the last like hour and a half for me and Joe because they didn't dump anything on my shirt, but they were assholes and they just would not shut up. And nobody would say anything to them either. So they just kept going and going. And I'm glad I wanted to be like, Joe, one of us should punch these guys to shut them up. That's the closest,
Like,
that's the
I'm trying to watch a
closest
pay-per-view, man, and this shit's going on. I'm like, they do one more fucking thing, I'm just gonna get tossed out because I'm gonna toss one of them down the fucking stairs. I was just at that point. I was just so tired of, but not all four of them, but the two they were sitting directly, the two most obnoxious ones directly behind me and AJ, and I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, are you kidding me right now?
I've probably been to 60-something wrestling events. That's the closest I've ever been to like wanting to like, and I always want to argue with somebody there. That's the closest I've ever been to like legitimately like wanting to be like shut the fuck up. You guys are ruining the show. If we get in a fight, we get in a fight. They were that annoying that they were ruining it for me and Theo a little bit.
I mean, at one point I turned around and looked at both of them and gave them like the evil eye look, like I give my son when he pisses me off or he gets mad.
Listen,
and they looked at me and I'm kind of thinking to myself, I kind of said, but like, I was like, can we stop? Can we calm the fuck down right now? Like, and it kind of like simmered down for a little bit and then boom, right back. Oh, Punk, he's gonna go to hell. He just used to earn. Oh yeah, burn his ashes, burn Punk, burn him alive in the ring. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. What the fuck are you guys talking about? Shut up.
Matt
it would have been funny. I think that line there would have been funny if it wouldn't have been all damn day that they were saying crazy ass stupid shit, because that's kind of funny.
I mean, if you think about it, hindsight, yeah, it was funny, but it was the third match into the show. And right from there, it was a slow, progressive, like, shit show that they were starting, all four of them. It was just like, Jesus Christ. Remember when
mad props to The Rock in that match for coming out when it was like 40 degrees in his little skivvies.
Yeah, it was getting right.
It was cold when The Rock and Cena fought. It was not warm that night.
Well, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know,
he grew up in Bethlehem. He's used to cold winters, you know.
Not walking around in your skivvies.
You don't know that.
So I'll tell you, between the different shows that we've been to, other events that I've been to, I feel like I am bound to either have a person in front of me or a person behind me annoy the shit out of me at some point in time. Because they're either going to be drunk or they don't know what the hell they're talking about. In my personal opinion, don't know what they're talking about. So that's going to drive me absolutely freaking bonkers. So
every show.
I'm like, it never fails, man. It just never fails. I'm like, fucking A.
When I go to shows now, I'm just hoping that there's people around me that aren't obnoxious. Even if I don't talk to them, I'm just hoping that there's not idiots around me. And my definition of idiot is not the same as you guys. So I'm just hoping that there's not idiots around me or 10-year-old kids, because 10-year-old kids drive me nuts at those events because I want to be like, it's fake. It's fake. I want to ruin it for them. I want to be like, it's fake. Shut up. So
yes, AJ's definition of an idiot at a wrestling show is person rooting for somebody he does not like.
Which is 90%,
pretty much
90% of the people there usually for me. So.
But just real quick, based upon something that Jeremy just said about like always having somebody. Didn't we have some assholes last year at WrestleMania that were
in front of
us? The two drunk couples and their teenage daughter who was like trying to keep all of them together and.
We'll talk about
that story.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that was like when it happened, because I was getting kind of jumbled in my mind with other shows.
That was last year.
I do want to tell one. This is not an event I went to with you guys, but this is my favorite wrestling story of all the things I've done. So when I lived up in New Hampshire, me and 3 of my friends, we went to a Raw in Hartford, and they were a little bit more lenient back then about checking signs, like what you had written on signs. So we were like, we're going to make some stuff, and we're going to try to get something in that's inappropriate. So, and we did a lot of double-sided stuff. So they would check one side and be like, no, and they took a sign away from us. But we managed to sneak one sign in that wasn't appropriate. So, and our seats, those are the best seats I've ever had. We were like 2 rows behind the announce table. Because I remember before before JR even put his headphones on. I was like, Nebraska. I was like, Oklahoma sucks. Like I was trying to be defensive by
Boomer Sooner. Boomer Sooner.
I put his headphones on too early, but we were that close. So I'm like, okay, we're gonna get one of these signs. We're gonna get these signs on television if we plan it. And the guy who we wrote the sign about wasn't there. He didn't go with us. So the sign that we had that was inappropriate said Steve loves Girl Scouts. And my friend Steve is like 25, 26 at the time. So it's very inappropriate. At one point, probably about 9 o'clock, 9.
Could have put cookies like real small at least on the bottom.
So the sign, I held it up and it got on TV. And the cameraman came and took the sign away from me. And he's like, that cannot be on television. So that was like, and my friend Steve was watching at home. He's like, I saw the sign. Like I remember he texted me. He's like, I saw the sign. So I went back and I had recorded it. And I was like, yeah, there's my sign. And whenever I would see that cameraman, I'd be like, fuck that guy. That's the asshole that took my sign.
Oh, yeah, because that was such an appropriate sign to have on TV.
you pointed him out to me. I remember every show we went to together. You're like, there's that guy.
He doesn't work for them anymore, but he was there for a long time. Like probably the whole time I lived in Pennsylvania with you guys, he was always there. So he worked for them for a lot, but we got away with it. It was cool. We got our 15 seconds of fame on Monday Night Raw.
Now, real quick. Real quick, along the lines of inappropriate signs, the can't understand network television sign, did that happen at a show we were at, or was that just something we saw on TV once?
That was something we saw. Yeah.
Okay.
That sign was quickly taken from somebody.
Oh, yeah. If I recall correctly, the guy kind of walked it down into camera view. Like he wasn't like where he was sitting. He couldn't just hold it up and the camera would pick it up. So, and I think if I also recall correctly, it was like very much at the end of the show or towards the end of the show. So he came running down, like, and he held it up. And, again, if you don't understand why can't understand network television is a bad sign, just again, spell out the first letters in each of those words and you should get it. But I just remember that being like snatched away inside of like 2 seconds too. So
I think the guy almost got tackled trying to get his sign taken away.
Did he have the first, like, the letter, like, each letter of each word, like, highlighted?
Yeah, I think it was like an NBC or some kind of colors or something.
Sweet. Because if he didn't do that, then the sign would have been wasted.
Oh, no, it was. There was colors in every big letter.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it would have had to have been intention drawn to it. Because if you just wrote that in a sign, even if you had the letters, like, perfectly lined up, it's not going to immediately catch your eye unless it's highlighted.
Oh, I would have caught that pretty quick.
But like AJ's story about like signs getting taken away when you got into it, when we had the Hassan for President sign, we made sure that like we had that side of it was like tucked in the sense that we had the Master Spheres Mike Skill sign out, and I think we had Jeremy's sign against it. So, like, we just showed them, like, those two. And just in case they were going to be offended by Hassan for president for any reason, we said, oh, let's just try to play it safe so we don't get that taken away because we definitely want people to see that.
I definitely had a Hulk Hogan fears Donnie Darko sign at least at one show we went to. I remember making that sign because I always had to put thought into my signs. Like, I'm not just, like, I've been making... Like, after the Austin 316 thing happened and people would just put their last name in 316, I'm like, give me a break, people. Can we come up with something more original than that? That might be the worst sign I've ever seen is, wait for Mullen 316. Like,
I would never make that sign. But, so, I want to say, anybody who's, that's too long of a last name. People are like, what the hell's that guy's last name? That don't even make any sense.
316.
So... I want to say something. Anybody that's listening to this, wherever you're listening to it, if you've ever made a sign that was funny, that was unique, kudos to you because you took the time to really think about your sign. Anybody that did like myself did and makes the Gennaro Jeremy's here or Daddy loves you or, you're as lame as I am when you came to your signs, and try harder next time you go to the event, okay?
That's
try
why
hard.
I never made a sign. I put so much thought into it, and I can't come up with anything I like. I'm like, just screw it. I'm not going to make a sign. I'm just going to go to the show. How with
now
it?
it's not cool anymore, but back then when it was cool, like everybody, and I'm trying to remember like some really cool signs I saw. Like I saw some really good ones during the Attitude Era, but I can't remember them. All I can think of is the ones from College Game Day now. So I can't remember any of the really good ones from back like in the, but there were always really good signs.
Yeah.
Like somebody did one time, I think, when I want to say there was a college football one. It was the first time I seen it. It was like Nebraska 316 says, "We just whipped your ass, Oklahoma," or something like that. And like the first time I saw it, it was cool. But then when everybody started copying it, then it got derivative. So
Yeah.
Well, and signs are definitely a lost art. Like I never made signs for any show I've ever been to other than that one Raw. And I think that was because like when the other shows rolled around, like I just really couldn't think of anything that was like
you were like you wanted to be creative. You didn't want to just throw something on a piece of cardboard.
Yeah, I couldn't really think of anything all that clever or funny. I didn't really have anything to say, so I'm just like, whatever. And it's kind of interesting because it's if you listen to some of the like the podcasts that are out there now, I can't remember which ones I've heard it on. If it's like Bischoff,
and you should be listening to ours if you're not. All right? You should be listening.
But if it's like Bischoff's or JR's or Pritchard's or anything, they have commented on the past about how like sign making or at least sign bringing, if you will, to events has already become a lost art, if you will, because nobody seems to have any interest anymore because everybody's got to have their goddamn phone. Everybody's on their phone, during the show and everything, or like, they're holding up their phone for like the Firefly lights or whatever, that part, whatever. But it's like, but nobody gives a shit about bringing a sign anymore. So, I wouldn't mind seeing signs come back. I'd be, because at the very least it would be entertaining for you watching at home, because you could either go, find one that you like and you're going to laugh at, or you can be like AJ and go, "Oh, that sign sucks." So, so I kind of wish you would see more sign making these days, but it seems like it's probably past its time because we're just so advanced with our electronics now.
There was a.
So let me interrupt you real quick here, AJ.
Yeah.
So real quick.
Time?
Yes, it is a service announcement time because don't forget at the end of the show we have Mount Rushmore coming up, of course, based on the wrestling theme from our show today. And anybody who's listening, watching, please make sure you're going to our YouTube page, Four Guys Roundtable Show. Leave a comment on the show. Let us know what you're thinking. Got any questions, leave them there for us. Also, you can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes for the audio version, so you can take it anywhere you want to go. All right, AJ, back to you.
One time when I went to a SmackDown in Columbus, these like, I don't know how old, they were probably 15. There was like a couple of 15-year-old girls sitting in front of me, and they had a big sign that said like the Hardy Boys or something, and the Hardy Boys wrestled in the first match, so they were done. Those girls held that sign up the whole rest of the damn night. So they ruined they ruined the Hardy Boys for me that night. I was like screaming at them, "Put the sign down, they wrestled already." They would not listen to me. So I just that was the moment I probably started not liking them, because of those stupid girls and their sign ruined, because they were holding it up right in front of them.
So a bunch of 15-year-olds ruined the Hardy Boys for you.
It's awesome that he would be yelling at them to put the sign down, and they're probably like, "Why is this old guy yelling at us? What's wrong with him?"
They're probably like, "We're not listening to this asshole now. Nope, we're not putting the sign down."
I mean,
Shut up, Grandpa.
It makes them look. I mean, that my impression of them is that they were ignorant and they had no clue. So that's
they're teenage girls. I have, my daughter was a teenage girl a couple years back. I'm gonna have another teenage girl, and I still don't understand them. So
Nope, never will.
If it was a teenage boy, I could say he was just probably trying to poke your little numbers and push your buttons to say, "Ha, Grandpa, shut up. I'm going to do what I want to do, asshole."
I wasn't really a grandpa then.
I'm not saying you were a grandpa. Little exaggeration on the old guy there. Maybe now.
We can talk about the WrestleMania we all went to together now.
Well, we definitely can. So I want to preface this with one little thing. One thing I've noticed about going to shows with AJ is that unless it's a dirt cheap show to get a close seat, your fucking ass is sitting really, really far away. You are sitting far away. And this is nothing against AJ. I mean, he goes to a lot of shows, and that's awesome. Kudos to you, because I'm more of a, if I'm going to go to a show, I really want to try and sit close if I can. I'm willing to, I'll forego not going if I can't get close because of the price of the ticket. But we have sat in at WrestleMania 35 as well as the Money in the Bank show. There was nobody behind us. We were in the furthest seats back. Like, we couldn't get any further back. I thought I might fall out of the stadium at WrestleMania 35.
Wow. The Money in the Bank ones we bought online.
We got those tickets late,
but
too.
The WrestleMania ones, I didn't get those the day they came out. We had to buy them from StubHub, so we didn't get the tickets we wanted anyway. So we had to take what we could get at that point. So
yeah, and I'm not blaming. Trust me, I'm not blaming you, AJ. I thought it was really funny.
I've probably sat in that area at 15 of the events I've been to at least. I've been in the upper. I've sat with my back to the wall at a couple of other shows before too.
I just felt bad for Darth Pat at Money in the Bank, because he's for those of you that are listening to the audio version, you can't see Darth Pat. He's a gentleman. He's about, what are you, 6'4"?
Yep.
So he's 6'4" and
slightly resembles the Big Show.
Slightly resembles the Big Show, and he's a bigger gentleman. So
I'm wide.
6'4", being in one of those tiny ass chairs up against the back of the Wells Fargo Center. I felt bad for him.
Well, see,
I felt cramped.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I was like, at the Money in the Bank, we were literally with our backs to the wall. Like, there was literally no seats behind us. At WrestleMania at MetLife Stadium, we were not in the last row. Like, there were, I want to say, 3 or 4 rows.
2 rows. There were 2 rows behind us. Yeah.
Okay. That were blocked off and that nobody was sitting in.
It was easier to get in and out because of that. It was easier to go down because of that.
Yeah. Just going to throw it out there. They probably figured it would probably be best to not have anybody sitting all the way up at the top, just in case somebody had a little too much to drink.
Wow, they may have fallen out.
Those people in front of us would have.
Yeah, so I think that was as much security precaution as anything else, because I'm sure if they'd wanted to, they could have sold those seats. It's WrestleMania.
Yeah. So based on our WrestleMania experience last year, my wife and I have agreed if we ever go to WrestleMania again, we're spending the big money and we're getting in the first 5 rows.
Yeah,
we'll figure it out somehow. But yeah,
me and Theo talked about that. That's fine.
Yeah.
So
I, of course, am of the opinion that I am never going to a WrestleMania show again, and that really has as much to do with my career as anything else. So,
or that you fell asleep at this one.
That is really, again, directly tied into my career.
Yes, our friend Darth Pat did fall asleep at WrestleMania 35.
Yes,
that's during the time of year where I'm working 6 days and 60 to 70 hours a week. So
we all kind of looked over at you at one point and we're just like pointing at you, sleeping.
I was like, this is common. Oh well.
Whatever couple minutes I could get, where they were very well welcome. That was a long day last year.
It was.
God, long.
It definitely was.
And it sucked. The show sucked. So falling asleep was realistic.
No, the show sucked only for one reason for you.
Everybody he wanted to win lost. It was a recurring theme that day for AJ, is that everybody he wanted to win actually really did lose. Not a single person I think you wanted to win that night, did they?
Maybe like 1 or 2, but mostly no.
And that makes it, for any wrestling fan, that makes it a rough night when you're like, God damn it, all my guys are losing.
Yeah, it does suck.
I'll be the first to say that WrestleMania, in my eyes, was largely disappointing, because there was no match where you went, wow, I just watched a great match. closest thing was the Kofi Bryan match.
That was the best match of the night.
But even that
Which I skipped.
But even that match didn't feel like so special, if you will. So there was no like great standout match like that. Again, it was the show was just very long, very dragged out.
We decided to come out with a shirt for the women's match from there, calling it one of the greatest matches ever, even though that match was not great.
Yeah, that was the problem too. Was the women's match? I mean, it was obviously the match that was being hyped up, and that was perfectly understandable why. And quite frankly, it should have been hyped up. The problem was it didn't really fully. It really didn't fully deliver in the ring. And I remember I'll admit I was starting to nod off again because again we're like at that point, what time was it? Like 12:30?
12:15-ish. Yeah, somewhere between.
I don't know.
You know,
I don't remember what time we left.
So I'm just like really starting to lose it. I'm saying to myself, I got to be at work in literally 8 hours, and we still got an hour and a half drive home. Not to mention how long it's going to take to get out of here. But the ending was so abrupt, and then
anticlimactic.
It's like because I remember saying like I couldn't have had my eyes closed for more than 5 seconds. All of a sudden, I'm hearing the bell ring and Becky's music playing. I'm like, what? And so it wasn't until a couple weeks ago that I finally went back and like watched the match and finally got to see like the clear view of like the pin and everything. And I even went, wow, they botched that so fucking bad.
Oh yeah, it was terrible.
Roger's shoulders were just not down for the entire 3 count. It just makes it's really just like that moment from like Naked Gun 33 1/3 when everybody in the audience at one time goes. So I mean, like again, it should have been great. It wasn't.
When we went at the WrestleMania, Theo ate 5 times, so we're gonna let Theo review the food that he ate.
Man.
Food review. Here we go.
Hey,
this is the great part of the show.
Both times I've been at that football stadium, I've had good food. You know, we
You
got
ate
there.
more the second time than the first time we went.
Oh yeah, I think it's the first time I only ate like twice.
Only
it was
twice.
Good food. Only twice. This time was 5. It might have been. I think I had 6 times if you count the dessert that I had. So I had several beers that were good. Beer's beer, you know. Had a
pricey ass beer.
Yeah, unfortunately, I only had 2, but it is what it is. The hero was good. You know, the normal hero was good. Had some good ass Asian food, which I know Jeremy got later on. It was a little spicy, but it was good.
It was good. The noodles were delicious.
Oh yeah, noodles. I had that. I had some ice cream. I went back and got a cheesesteak then. What else did I have?
How was the cheesesteak, by the way?
I got
a cheesesteak. It wasn't great. It was okay.
It was average. It wasn't like I was going to, Philadelphia and getting one of those from like Geno's or whatever. But I mean, they did the best they could for a New York cheesesteak. You know what I mean?
For $12.
Yeah.
The $12 cheesesteak.
Got some churros. Yeah, a place selling churros. I got a couple of those. That was kind of my dessert. It was good. It was good. I had to pace myself in regards to that.
What was that?
Pat said he got a sundae. He said the sundae was good.
Oh yeah, it was good.
Yeah, and I got because I was at MetLife Stadium.
I didn't get the baseball hat with it.
Well, yeah, because I'm a Giants fan, but like I've never been to a live NFL game, and quite frankly, I don't have any intention of going to a live NFL game. Especially after not being in that stadium, I don't think I'd want to be that tightly compact with a bunch of football fans who are drinking. But like hey, they offered them like these like little helmets. You can get Giants or Jets because they both play in that stadium. So I'm like, hey, while I'm here, why the hell not? Hey, give me the little commemorative helmet, which I meant to go grab and show on the podcast, but I forgot about that. So, but I still have it. It's on a little mantle downstairs. Makes a nice little decoration.
You know what? I remember when they used to do that when I was a kid. They used to put the ice cream in the baseball helmets when you went to see like Phillies games.
They do that at Iron Pigs.
They still do that at stadiums as far as I know. There used to be the restaurant chain, the Ground Round, which
God,
Round.
We're all old. We're talking.
You just showed how old we are, you asshole.
when we and my sisters were kids, we went there a lot because it was right next to Toys R Us. So it was always like a big event. Like we go to Toys R Us and stuff. But we'd always get like the Sundays and the helmets at Ground Round, and it became like almost like a competition to see if we could like get one of every single team. Because you couldn't really like request them. It would just be like whatever they had. But I think at one time we may have had most all of them. And I just remember, being so proud that I taught my younger sister, who couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 at the time, that when she saw the Baltimore Oriole helmet, they were the stinky team, because that was like after one of the years where they had like lost like their first 20 games to start the season. So I just remember having fun teaching her that. So whenever she like saw the Orioles helmet on site, she made that comment.
Nice.
When we that day when we went to WrestleMania last year, Theo decided he was going to mess with me when I got there. So he got there first. He went to the store, and I had given him or Sean money, and I was like, I want the Roman Reigns cancer shirt. So I'm like, Joe's like, we're in the place or whatever. So I texted him. I'm like, did you get my shirt? And Joe's texting me, yeah, I got you the Kofi shirt. I got you the Kofi shirt.
Yeah, I was with Joe. Joe, myself, and our friend Sean all went together. And Joe was just like, hey guys, I'm gonna screw with AJ.
Fuck with him.
He's all like, what do you think? I think I'm going to tell him that I got the Kofi shirt instead.
Roman Reigns shirt was out, so I got you a Kofi.
Yeah, and Sean and I, knowing all the animosity that AJ developed for Kofi, were like, do it. Yeah, the access off, because they're not there yet, and we're going like, oh, he's going to be so pissed. It's going to be the first thing he says to you, and I'm pretty sure it was. So,
well, the only thing that would have been worse than that, if he would have been like, I got you the Becky the Man shirt, then I would have been like, God damn it, motherfuckers.
We thought that you were funny too. We actually thought you were like angrier with Kofi at the time. So
I was.
Yeah.
So it was really funny. We're sitting at WrestleMania. The show's like, it's okay. And the Kofi Kingston, and what was it? Kofi Kingston and Daniel Bryan?
Yeah.
That match comes up, and we just see AJ stand up and essentially like run for the exit. He's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Because he for whatever reason, he does not enjoy Kofi Kingston. I don't think Kofi Kingston's great on the mic. I don't think he's an entertaining mic skills person, but I think in-ring ability, I think is good. So AJ,
that's fair. That's fair.
We're all sitting there and we're like watching the match, and we're like, holy shit, this match is actually really good. Like in-ring match was by far the best match in ring all night.
Yeah, it was.
So you hear all the crowd cheering and stuff, and AJ finally comes back because he knows the match is over. And we're like, dude, you just missed the best match. And your reaction was, what, AJ?
I would do it. I still would do it again. Like, I would still not watch the match, even if after hearing that, I didn't miss anything. I'm good. So
his reaction was great. He's like, I don't fucking care.
I really think with Kofi, it's the stupid Royal Rumble stuff that's ruined that for me with him. I just hate every year when they're like, oh, what's he gonna do this year? I just got sick and tired of that because it's stupid. So
it's
now they do it with Naomi, and it's like it was bad. It was cool the first time, maybe the first 2 times they did it.
It was cooler when John Morrison did it.
Huh?
It was cooler when John Morrison did it, and he jumped and like stuck to the sidewall.
Now
and then got back.
Like they have to do something every year. They feel like they have to now, and just stop. Just let it go. We don't need to see Naomi. That's the only reason she's even there, because she's garbage otherwise. So
it's one of the Usos. I mean,
so I just I think that's what started ruining. I don't think I was indifferent towards Kofi 10 or 12 years ago. The Royal Rumble stuff started ruining it for me because I'm just like this. There's an expectation every year that he's supposed to do something crazy in the And the New Day to me is just it's done. It's
run its course.
It's run its course to me. So, and WWE capitalizes on it. I thought the New Day was cool like 5 years ago, and they 3 years later they figured it out and started capitalizing on it. So they have a tendency to do stuff way later than they should. So
true. So, do we have any other stories from WrestleMania 35 that we want to share? I can't think of any off the top of my head.
I mean, Joe is
just the drunk people in front of us.
Yeah, the drunk people were fun.
the beer throwers, as I want to call them.
Man, they were drunk before the first match was halfway through the dam.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
before it was halfway done.
They sat down drunk. I mean, it was blatantly obvious. And
there was only one person that wasn't drunk out of the five of them.
There was like
the young daughter, the young adult daughter, because she was drinking too. She had to be at least 21, but she was the only one that was like sober out of the full five of them.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 times like they were like, and I can't really remember if it was like for any good reason, like if they were reacting to something that happened in the ring or not.
No,
but, like,
no, not really.
They had like the cup of beer in their hand, and they just go like ah! And so of course the beer goes flying, and it hit the people who were in between them and us, and these are people who we kind of been chatting with, like earlier in the show. They seem like perfectly nice people. I'm pretty sure they said something to them after the first time it happened, and again after the second time it happened. But the third time it happened, those people got up, and we didn't see them again.
No, we did not, because I think the one girl was pregnant too.
Yeah,
you can't think
she was.
They must have gone and complained to somebody, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
And gotten like different seats somehow somewhere, or they just totally left the show. The hell knows.
Well, the blonde, there was a blonde girl sitting in front of us when I was out during the Kofi Daniel Bryan match. She was like down by outside there, and she was like yelling at somebody on her phone. Like I heard her arguing with somebody on her phone.
Oh,
so
those people, they were entertaining, but it was also kind of sad because they were so drunk. Like I think the older lady, I think who was the mom, I believe, possibly. Like her top almost came down one time. Like she almost like bared her boobs to us in the back. I was like, geez, like keep your shirt on, lady.
Her boyfriend almost fell down the stairs.
Oh my, that was hilarious. That dude almost
like he couldn't keep his balance. He went forward. Then he tried to stand up and he's falling backwards and he's like falling on his knees.
His phone.
So I guess like I think
I don't find people like that entertaining. I mean, I just find them annoying.
I don't understand. I know how much we spent on our tickets. Why would you spend like $150 to go somewhere and then spend another $100 to get drunk and not even watch the show? Like to me, that's pissing money away.
It's a waste of money.
I mean, like, I'll give you a hint, AJ. Some people, are you ready?
Are
fucking assholes.
I know. I work in retail. I'm well aware of that. That just makes no sense to me why you would piss all that money away like that. So
again, it's like some people just, quite frankly, unfortunately, don't know how to behave. When it's I'm not going to go
drunk then.
Yeah, I'm not going to go generalize and stereotype here, but it's like they come off as white trash. I mean, and it's again what kind of really bothered me about the whole thing was, again, like I said, the people who were directly in front of us got up, left, never came back. It kind of bothered me that like nobody came around up to those seats to like warn those people like hey, so either like they didn't get reported, or basically the attitude was, well, what the hell are we supposed to do, to go to everybody throughout the stadium, which I could kind of understand. But it also kind of reminded me of the 07 show that we talked about, the Raw, where Vince's limo blew up. There was a middle-aged couple who were sitting, I don't remember if it was like directly in front of us or behind us, but they were very obviously toasted. And other people around us started complaining about like we didn't, because we were just like, whatever. They weren't being like, they weren't like not in control of their functions, like spilling beer on us or anything. They were just loud and obnoxious. But it's funny, I remember other people, I think, complain about them, and they were just like, well, we paid for our tickets too. And I'm saying in my mind, buying that ticket doesn't mean you can act like a drunken dipshit.
That's so true. So true.
The show was over. Remember, they kept on shouting at Jerry Lawler and wanting an autograph, and I think they did get one from him, because he signed a few autographs after the show. Which, again, considering Vince's limo just blew up, was kind of weird to ask for an autograph. But when they got for asking him, and because they were being really obnoxious about it, and kept on saying his name as he's signing for other people, he just had I'll never forget this. Lawler just had this look on his face like, "Fuck you, people."
He was probably thinking, these could be my in-law. These could be people I'm related to, I think, maybe.
Lawler just looked totally annoyed that he had to give them the time of day. And because it seems like he's not an asshole and that he'll refuse to sign an autograph for somebody if they're right there asking for it, because he did it dutifully and everything. But he totally had this look on his face that was basically saying, yeah, please get the hell out of my face as soon as you can, you drunken cocksuckers.
So if we got one thing to say about WrestleMania, I think our general consensus would be last year's WrestleMania was pretty bad. Maybe a C- at the most.
It was too long, too. That's the other problem. Is even
the WWE, if you listen
disappointing
to your fans, cut the show shorter.
Well,
make it shorter.
Give us the 2 nights again. I'd rather see 2 nights again.
As long as they're entertaining, I'll agree with the 2 nights. If they're entertaining, I'll agree with 2 nights.
I really honestly think if they want to make it that long, they want to give all this time to all these matches and everything, then doing the 2-night thing might be the way they have to go. Obviously, they're going to be concerned about logistics for that, because it's do you have 2 tickets, one for each night? Is it 1 ticket, but it's an increased price then? It's so it's going to be. Figure
it out, Vince. Figure it out, Vince. That's why they pay you the big bucks. Figure it out.
Right. It's no matter what way they decide to do it, should they decide to continue doing it, this 2-night thing as we move forward and hopefully into the post-pandemic era, which will hopefully be here next year. It's going to be controversial no matter how they decide to do it.
The WrestleMania this year was substantially better than last year's. And if we would have been there, even if I would have watched that for 1 night, I would have enjoyed that more than what we saw the year before, because I just think the matches were better. And I don't know if we would have gotten the cinematic matches if
definitely would have.
So,
but even so, I do think you're right in that a lot of the stuff that was actually taking place live inside the ring was a bit better than last year. Yeah,
it was.
Yeah. So I want to finish with one last story, and this one actually only involves me and Joe, and this is when we went to see TNA in Bethlehem, because we were 2 seats off the entrance aisle, I think, and 3 to 4 rows back, I think, from the ring.
3 rows back, yeah, we were 3 rows back.
3 rows back. So we were super close. Now, granted, this place only holds 3,000 to 4,000 people, I think, so there wasn't really a bad seat in the house, but.
No,
it was actually for our money's worth. It was a really, really good 2 shows, because we got 1 live and then we got 1 tape show, which was really cool.
Which we had no idea, because it wasn't even it wasn't even advertised. It wasn't even on the schedule. They're the show ended, and then all of a sudden they're announced that they were doing a taping for the next show. We're like, oh, okay,
sweet.
Cool. We're going to watch 2 shows. I'm down with this.
Mind blown. But it was cool.
All right, 2 for the price of 1.
Being that close, we got, and at that time, because this was 2000.
Oh shit.
12.
TNA was decent at that time for the most part.
Was AJ still there? AJ was still there. AJ was
still there.
Yeah.
My God, how many years we're talking about?
So that night too, that was a night. I mean, Bobby Roode was in a storyline where he was off TV, and then that was his return. He went right past us, and I didn't even we didn't even see it at first. We're sitting by the aisle, he came running through, and I'm like, oh shit, there goes Bobby Roode. I was like, okay, I guess he's back. He just zoomed past us. I was like, oh damn.
What was that? I feel like I was supposed to go to that show with you guys, and then I couldn't or something. Did you guys?
I think so.
There was a show
probably
that you guys went to where I was living here and I couldn't make it there. I think I was unemployed at the time. I think I was supposed to go. I think I paid you guys for the ticket and just didn't go. So I seem to remember.
Might have been that one. I don't remember.
I don't remember.
That was the one.
I remember getting you guys getting tickets for a show, and I was supposed to go with you, and then I ended up not going.
It might have been that show, but it was just like I said, it was really cool. It was a really good time because it was such a small venue. But you had AJ in his prime in TNA. You had Samoa Joe was there in his prime in TNA. You had Bobby Roode, James Storm.
Kazarian.
You had what's that?
Yeah, Daniels and Kazarian still there at that time.
Daniels.
Yeah.
Like, you had probably the best roster that TNA ever, not TNA, TNA. Why am I?
Yeah.
Now I don't even know what show I'm talking about. Jesus.
Not TNA anymore.
Because they go by Impact these days. No, TNA.
But it was probably the best wrestling roster from top to bottom that they ever had. And to be there at that time and be able to see all those guys wrestle and get to see them twice in one night was absolutely awesome. It was a great time, and that was the one show I can say we didn't have anybody bad sitting around us.
No, we didn't have any issues at all. Like, everyone around us was just like there to have fun. There was some pretty cool people. I talked to like 2 people while I was getting a drink or whatever, and like intermission and whatnot. But no, that was a good show. And that place is actually cool to have wrestling shows at, because I took my son to NXT show there, and not in the floor seats, but like on the sides they have those seats right there. Like, we were like the seats were on an angle. We had like the first 2 seats like closer to the railing and whatnot, but it was like right by the ring, so you're like right above the ring, kind of the way it's set up. But it was really cool, and it was a good NXT show. We didn't me and my son didn't have any issues with anybody there either, and it was cool because like the main event match was Drew McIntyre versus Andrade, and we got to see I got to see what was that tag team? It'll come to me, but it was like that show overall was like a really good NXT like house show. It was like really cool.
I like going to wrestling events in the small, dumpy places. Like, sometimes that's the best place to go see wrestling. Like,
it is.
I like smaller venue events better than like the big huge events like WrestleMania. So I would rather go to a lot of the NXT shows I go to are small venues, and I have, those are the ones I have. And then when I went to the ECW thing, that was in a small venue. Even the AEW, even both AEW events I've been to were in mid-level arenas, not huge buildings. So
it makes the atmosphere better.
I'm trying to think, was Petey Williams still with TNA at that point in time when we went to see that show? I kind of think he wasn't. That's right. That was after he left.
Was Big Papa Lashley there?
He was not.
No. Lashley was wrestling for them at the time. He had like this, whatever his gimmick was, where he came out with like 4 ladies and stuff like that.
It didn't matter where he's wrestled. He's been terrible everywhere.
Was this before or after the Scott Steiner math promo?
Oh, Jesus.
If you
2
take
plus 2 equals 17, and plus this.
I have a 125% chance of winning.
I don't think Scott Steiner was there at that time we went either. I don't think he was on the roster.
It just popped in my mind because Jeremy said Petey Williams. So
I think that was the last
took a break, and then he came back with Big Papa Pump.
Yeah, we that was the last. Yeah, that was the last TNA show I ever went to. I went to, anytime TNA came into the Bethlehem area, I think I went to all the shows. So I think it was like 7 times I went there. And then the pay-per-view that in Philly that I went to. Were you there? Did you go to that one with me, Jeremy? I know Sakamoto went with me, I think. Sakamoto and one of his friends. That was the whole Hogan versus Sting, because Hogan was part of that evil faction with Ric Flair, wherever the hell that whole storyline was.
I think that was the beginning of the end for TNA at that point. But
yeah. I mean, it was a decent pay-per-view, but their seats were pretty good too. I'll admit that. But yeah, that was the last actual TNA show I ever went to.
Yeah. And just remember this interesting little tidbit. TNA has been in business longer than either ECW or WCW.
Yeah, they find a way to keep going. I don't know how they do it, but they do find a way. Somebody's they're getting money from the people.
The biggest reason has been that they've been able to stay on TV in some form, which is, of course, what ended both ECW and WCW, basically, was that their shows got canceled. So,
yeah. All right. Does anybody want to share any last stories, or shall we move on to my favorite segment of the show?
Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore.
I think it's time to go to Mount Rushmore.
All right. So Mount Rushmore is here. It is time for us to name 4 heads. But funny enough, it's not actually going to be heads, because our theme of Mount Rushmore today is we are naming our favorite show that we've either seen or been to as the face to go on Mount Rushmore. And I'm going to pick Mr. Darth Pat to start us off. Since he went last, he's going to get to go first this week.
You have 5 minutes. I have a timer on right now.
All right. So my show, ECW One Night Stand 2005.
Nice.
A lot of reasons for this. Number one, and this is a kind of a weird way to say it, but I think it applies. Really had no expectations for that show. All we really knew is that they're doing an ECW reunion show, and they're putting it on pay-per-view. Now, I did not get to see a lot of ECW during its initial run because, like, I didn't tape trade or didn't really have, the connections, and then didn't ever really know it was on TNN until I accidentally stumbled upon it once, which, Paul Heyman will tell you all about. But so I didn't really have any expectations for it. Just like, okay, it seems like a fun little one-off thing that they're going to do. Just kind of running down the card real quick. You had Lance Storm against Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio against Psychosis, Tajiri versus Super Crazy versus Little Guido, Chris Benoit versus Eddie Guerrero, Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka, which hadn't been announced until I think two before the show. You had like an unannounced match between Sabu and Rhino because it involved RVD, who couldn't wrestle because he was injured at the time, and then he had the main event of the Dudley Boys against Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. Now,
all good matches.
The fun part about it was I really don't remember any of the matches being bad. If anything, I think I remember saying that the match that was most disappointing, if you will, was the Benoit Guerrero match, because it's we know what those two guys could do in the ring together. But it seemed like that they were selling Guerrero's current WWE character still too much at that show, where he was he had turned heel, so he was mean, depressing Eddie, who never smiled and everything, and he acted disinterested, like he didn't want to be there and stuff. So I think that hampered it a little. But that was really the only part that I remember having a negative feeling about. So, you had appearances from other ECW alumni. They had a tribute to guys who had passed away, which I thought was a nice touch, especially because I think that show was only about a week or two after Chris Candido had died. So they hit the right notes there. We found out that RVD kind of sort of actually had mic skills, which we never from his previous WWE run. And the Sandman's entrance, I'm sure was so much better if he were there live. And obviously, if you watch it on the network now, it sucks because the music is overdubbed. But it just really brought home the excitement and the atmosphere and everything. So everything was entertaining about it. Could you do any of those matches today? No, particularly that Mike Awesome Masato Tanaka match, because those guys basically said, all right, we're just going to beat the hell out of each other with chair shots to the head.
That's all they did every time they wrestled.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hope that none of that stuff contributed to Mike Awesome's suicide. But, I mean, the other kind of sort of bad, but also in the end good thing was the fact that they decided they had to put pretty much the entire WWE heel roster, led by Bischoff and JBL and Edge up in the crowd to say oh, we hate ECW and everything. But they got some gold out of that by Heyman's promo where he did the Matt Hardy thing on Edge, where he made the Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays joke to JBL. And then, of course, when they did the end, with JBL deciding that he just had to beat the shit out of the Blue Meanie, which then led to that match that they had on SmackDown a few weeks later, where they basically punished JBL, and Stevie Richards gave him that chair shot where he hit him with the end of the chair that doesn't then fold up as it hits you in the head. He hit him with the flat bottom end of the chair, and it was one of the looking chair shots in the world. And I know I just said, hey, chair shots to the head bad. Seeing JBL take that chair shot at that time, good, because the son of a bitch deserved it. But just so like everything about the show was great. It was entertaining top to bottom. Now, the less said, the better about any ECW One Night Stand show from there on out, particularly the 2006 one, because that one both collapsed under the weight of its own perceptions, because they were relaunching ECW, which we all know was a fiasco. And then the way that crowd that was that night with the Cena RVD match was some of the most ridiculously blatant fans thinking they're part of the show moment that ever really kind of pissed me off. But again, One Night Stand 2005, great show. My 5 minutes are up.
I was surprised. He was talking a little fast too. He was talking a little fast. So I was like, okay.
Trying to get through this, I got to go watch John Oliver. Damn it!
Oh God, here we go. Lord.
So who's up next, Darth Pat? Who's going after you?
Oh, I think Theo should talk now because I think his is somewhat similar to mine.
Mine is a true ECW pay-per-view. No. My favorite ECW pay-per-view was Heatwave 98. I went to a couple of house shows before that pay-per-view took place. I watched that pay-per-view because one of the cool things back in the day, and I'm going to show more of my age, which sucks, is that my dad worked with a guy who used to rig the cable boxes to become, they call cheater boxes, or put the little cards in there so you can get every pay-per-view. So I watched every wrestling pay-per-view, boxing, and there's another thing I used to watch that came out at 1 o'clock at 9 o'clock at night. But that'll be for another show. We'll skip that part for talking wrestling. So, just saying. No, Heatwave was one of my favorite ECW pay-per-views. It was only like 6 matches, too. There was a dark match with Balls Mahoney and stuff, which was a good match, and they beat the shit out of each other. But a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of good wrestlers that came out of ECW in general. Like, the guys could put on matches, they could wrestle, not just fucking go through tables and tacks and all kinds of other shit, barbed wire stuff. And there were some guys actually that knew how to talk on the mic, too, which was crazy. One of the things about that show was Shane Douglas was injured at that time. There was a storyline with him, getting beat up, and his elbow was jacked up, and he was in a brace. Plus, when you watch ECW, how could you not like Francine coming out with lingerie every single time? That's all she wore when she came out to the ring. I mean, so it is what it is. But no, I mean, and it's funny, like when you watch that pay-per-view, like I watched it a couple weeks ago, Shane Douglas is spectacular with Joey Styles doing the announcing, like the color commentary. He's funny, he's awesome. He's kind of like what Chris Jericho has been kind of doing on AEW this past couple of months when he's been commentating. So it was cool stuff. The matches. Here's the matches. Just Incredible versus Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn's an all-timer. Just Incredible is actually a lot better wrestler than people give him credit to, but it was very odd seeing Nicole Bass with that little posse. That was so weird. The next match was Chris Candido, awesome wrestler, against Lance Storm, another awesome wrestler. Storm wasn't great on the mic, but Candido was definitely good on the mic. Spectacular wrestler. Next match.
Can we be serious for a moment?
Yep. Another match. Tanaka versus Mike Awesome. That was those guys just like to beat the shit out of each other. And my favorite match, I think, there's my 2 favorite matches. Taz wrestled Bam Bam, and they did a spot fest in that one because the previous one, I think they did it before Big Show and them did it, where they him and Bam Bam fell through the ring in the corner. But I did a thing where they did a suplex through the entrance ramp that they used to have coming down to the ring. Now that was like a crazy spot they did at that time. But Van Dam and Sabu were the tag champs, and they wrestled Hayabusa and Shinzaki, I think is how you say it. He was the guy, if you remember, in WWE. He was the Japanese guy who had all the Japanese symbols on his body. And his face.
Yeah.
Hakushi.
He was named Hakushi in WWE.
Yeah.
But that was just, so that's who went by. That match is like a 20-minute match, and that match is spectacular. Spot fest all over the place with those 4 guys. One of the things that's kind of struck me with that whole pay-per-view was the 6-man tag. So it was Dreamer, Sandman, and Spike Dudley versus the Dudleys, Bubba Ray, Devon, and Big Dick Dudley.
Big Dick.
But if you watch like the beginning before that match starts, they cut an awesome promo, and Bully Ray now. He was really good on the mic back then. I don't know if people really realize that, but he was awesome on the mic. He did a great promo before that match. And of course, you gotta watch Gertner. Gertner takes the mic from him, and like he goes for like 2 to 3 minutes with just like these one-liners that are fucking hilarious. I just forgot how funny he was on the mic too. But you go back and go on the network and watch that shit, because that promo, it was funny. And the stuff like that pay-per-view was in Dayton, Ohio. I know AJ's greatest place in the world, the state of Ohio. It was in Dayton.
I've been down. Dayton's okay.
He took a shot at the city of Ohio in Dayton, which was kind of funny, like he always did. But no, it was an overall good pay-per-view, and it was one that stuck out to me because I was so big into ECW at that time. So that's my pick, Heatwave 1998.
So
that wasn't the Heatwave where Bubba Ray almost started the riot, though, right? Wasn't that Heatwave 99?
Yes. Heatwave.
Yeah.
Heatwave 99. I'm gonna get that. That is my favorite ECW pay-per-view, and it's because Bubba cuts the best heel. The Dudleys. That's the best heel promo I've ever seen in my life. Like, because they could get away with more stuff. As good as The Rock and Shawn Michaels' heel promos were, that Dudley's promo at Heatwave 99 is the best heel promo I've ever seen. And also at that Heatwave 99, the opening match is Chetty and Nova versus Doring and Roadkill. That might be the best opening match I've ever seen at a pay-per-view, period. Like, that opening match is fabulous. The gimmicks are great. Lita, that's when Lita was there, and the fans were chanting, she's a crack whore, and like that
yeah, they were. So
that match and that promo, I go back and show that promo to people, and I go back and show that match to people just because I'm like, watch this match. Because only in ECW does Chris Chetty start dancing to Livin' La Vida Loca in the middle of the match.
Yeah.
So is that your Mount Rushmore pick?
I'm just giving a shout out to ECW there.
All right. So since you're already on it, go with your pick for
my Mount Rushmore is NXT TakeOver New Orleans. I remember the six-way ladder match there is the best ladder match I've ever seen. And I remember distinctly Theo and our friend Sean, that whole match, they were texting me. They were like, this match is the shit. This match is amazing. Oh my God. Oh my God.
It was.
That's the most texts I've ever gotten from my friends during one single match. My phone was blowing up that whole match, and it was just Joe and Sean blowing my phone up. They had so many.
It was insane.
They had so many cool spots in that match. Like, I go back and watch that match still, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this match is so awesome. It did help that Adam Cole won the match, and I got to see him do Adam Cole baby on top of the ladder after the match was over. But even like the rest of the card, like, that was the night that Roderick Strong turned and went with the Undisputed Era. So like nobody saw that coming. And the Gargano Ciampa match was the main event, and that was right. So when me and Jeremy went to take over Philadelphia, that's when Ciampa came back right at the end of the show and beat the crap out of Gargano. So this was the first time they wrestled since then. When Ciampa came out, he had no music. And the whole crowd was chanting, fuck you, Ciampa. Like, the whole time down to the ring, they were sitting on him that whole match. The NXT crowd is the best crowd in wrestling. I don't care if you watch AEW. I don't care what wrestling you watch. The NXT is I love ECW's crowd. I will take NXT's crowd any day. Those takeover pay-per-views are great, and the crowd makes them even better because the NXT fans are great. They're
fans. They're fans.
Like Jeremy said that when we went to, like he said to us a week ago, when we went to that takeover, the crowd was hype. The crowd is always hype at NXT takeovers, like every single one. That makes those events for me. I can't wait to watch it was weird watching one without a crowd because that's like one instance where WWE needs their crowd. NXT really, really, really needs their crowd. So,
true.
Yeah.
So
that makes the events.
That's the best pay-per-view. 2002 SummerSlam would be honorable mention for me, but that takeover is the best, and I'll never forget that pay-per-view. Like I said, I go back and watch that, and a lot of times I see people rank NXT takeovers, and that's usually number one on not just my list. A lot of people really, really enjoyed that takeover.
Nice. All right. So my pick for Mount Rushmore is going to be one of the shows that I actually got to go see. And this was the Money in the Bank from 2013. We went down to Philly to see this show. It was a really, really good Money in the Bank show. I think it was the first year that they did the Raw Money in the Bank as well as a SmackDown Money in the Bank. So they had the two different Money in the Banks. And my favorite part of the show was actually, and somebody helped me with this because my memory is terrible with this stuff, but the one that Damien Sandow was in, was that SmackDown or was that Raw?
SmackDown.
That was SmackDown's. So Damien Sandow is in the SmackDown Money in the Bank match, and he's in the ring. He's doing, they're doing their thing, and then all of a sudden he just disappears. Okay, well, I could be wrong. Who knows? SmackDown, Raw. Either way, whichever match he was in, he suddenly disappears. And I see him go down by the announce table, kind of in like this weird corner. He was really hard to see. And I'm like, what the hell is he doing down there? Like, he's just sitting down there. He never comes back to the match for a really, really long time. And I remember AJ saying, where the hell's Sandow? Like, he had lost track of him because there's so much going on in these matches. And, we were pretty far up. I mean, we were all the way up to the back of the arena that time. And I was like, dude, he's down there by the announce table. He's just hanging out. And then all of a sudden, the last person, he just bolts into the ring and steals the Money in the Bank and wins the Money in the Bank. And at that point in time, I loved Damien Sandow. I thought his gimmick was awesome. Like, he was doing the super intelligent wine sipping, arrogant asshole, which I always love that gimmick. I think that gimmick's great.
They dropped the ball.
And he did a really good job with it. So he wins the Money in the Bank and essentially steals it. But then, of course, they have him later cash in against, John Cena, I think. And he gets his ass whooped. Like, it was terrible. His Money in the Bank cash in was terrible. It was just unfortunate because he was really good on the mic. He was a pretty damn good wrestler. And they turned it into a complete joke because by the end of his career in WWE, they had him doing like the Davy Crockett character and Abraham Lincoln. They had him doing all his stupid gimmick characters, which they were just completely shitting on Damien Sandow. But my pick, because it was such a great show and I got to see it live, is the 2013 Money in the Bank show, which is just my favorite.
Well, just real quick, it wasn't that it was like Raw and SmackDown. It was one match was for the WWE title and one match was for the World Heavyweight title. Sandow won the match for the World Heavyweight title because the brand extension was over by that point, and that was only a couple months before they ended up unifying the two titles back into one.
They kind of had, it was almost like they had all the newer, younger people on the one Sandow won, and then they had the established. I just remember Orton, RKO, and RVD off the ladder. That was sweet. I remember that spot.
Yeah, that pay-per-view from top to bottom was really good. Both matches were both Money in the Banks were really good, and that's rare.
Even the Mark Henry Cena match was pretty good there too, if I remember.
Yeah. Now, like just kind of what AJ said about like kind of like the newer guys and like the more established guys. Yeah, in the World Heavyweight title match, it was Sandow, Cesaro, Cody Rhodes, Dean Ambrose, who I think was U.S. champion at the time, Fandango, Jack Swagger, and Wade Barrett. And in the WWE Money in the Bank match, it was Orton, Christian, CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, RVD, and Sheamus. And, you know, if I recall correctly, like Sandow and Rhodes had been teaming for a while at that point. I think Sandow kind of screwed Rhodes over to win it. Like I think he tipped Rhodes off the ladder or just, you know, hit a move on. And I remember in the WWE Championship Money in the Bank match, you know, Heyman turned on Punk. So I think that it set up the Punk Lesnar match at SummerSlam. So, but yeah, I remember that being a pretty good show, top to bottom as well. Despite the fact I did not remember this match at all. Ryback beat Chris Jericho?
Oh, I don't remember.
Well, that's because nobody liked Ryback.
I can't even remember if Ryback was face or heel at that point.
Three of those guys from the Young Stars match are all in AEW now.
So to recap, we've got
what, Pat?
Three of them are Cody, Ambrose, Moxley.
I said three and Swagger.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you say three. Sorry.
All right. So to recap and bring everything to a close, Mount Rushmore is ECW One Night Stand 2005, ECW Heatwave 98,
damn right,
NXT TakeOver New Orleans, and Money in the Bank 2013. That is our Mount Rushmore of wrestling shows that we've either seen or been to. Theo, you taking us home tonight?
Sure.
Take that for pay-per-views. You didn't get picked.
What did you say?
I'm just going to shake my head at him right now. I'm just shaking my head.
Anyway. I didn't hear what he said.
I said take that, big four pay-per-views. None of you got picked.
No Mania, SummerSlams, Royal Rumbles. No, that's okay. Lord have mercy. All right, guys. We are ending another great show for us. Stay tuned for our next show, which I have no idea what the hell we're going to talk about yet. Maybe something different. Who knows?
There's a high chance you'll hear me bitching about the current status of baseball.
Lord have mercy. Don't get me started with that one, Pat, because I'm so pissed off at them right now. But anyway.
You and me could have a good back and forth while the two of them just sit there and like,
We can do that. They could just moderate the two of us if they want to at that point. Another good show, though. Good discussions, good talks. Another good Mount Rushmore, which is our thing, the Mount Rushmore. Always stay tuned every week for our Mount Rushmore because you never know what the hell is going to happen with that one. So everybody have a great night and see you all later.